Hey guys, Ambience here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 1 on Five Nights at Freddy's, as well as going into a lot of the basic fundamentals of the game that will be required for you to beat the harder levels as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Obviously, Night 1 is a very easy night. I'm not saying you guys need an in-depth guide or anything to actually beat Night 1 because it is very easy. But it's always best to start at the absolute basics, and I'd recommend watching this video even if you've completed Night 1 already anyway, as I'm going to be going into a lot of the basic fundamentals of Five Nights at Freddy's that are going to help you regardless of what skill level you are. So here we are in the office. You got your door buttons, you got your light buttons, you know, all that good stuff. You got Freddy's nose that you can honk, you got phone guy calling you, which I'm going to go ahead and mute once it pops up so you guys can hear me better. Alright, so let's take a look at the camera monitor. There are a lot of cameras in Five Nights at Freddy's, of course. There's the show stage, Cam 1A, the dining area, Cam 1B, the backstage, Cam 5, Pirate Cove, Cam 1C, supply closet, Cam 3, West Hall, Cam 2A, West Hall corner, Cam 2B, East Hall corner, Cam 4B, East Hall, Cam 4A, Cam 6, the kitchen, and the restrooms, Cam 7. So let's go back to the show stage here and close the camera monitor. So out of all of these cameras, there's only one camera that's going to be consistently important, no matter what night you're playing, no matter what your strategy is, and no matter what situation you're currently in. That camera is Cam 1C, Pirate Cove. This is the camera that you're going to be looking at the most on the early nights, and it is definitely one of, if not the most important cameras in the entire game. And let's go ahead and talk about why. Pirate's Cove, as I'm sure you know by now if you've done any research on the game or played through it yourself, is where the animatronic Foxy is. Foxy will progressively move closer to you. He'll pop his head out of the curtain and then he'll be standing over here. And then the curtains will be empty and he'll be rushing down the West Hall. Foxy works differently than any other animatronic, and he's definitely one of the most deadly. He's also the only animatronic that can actually attack you while you have the camera monitor down. So for Night 1 specifically, I would recommend just sitting here and not really doing anything up until the clock reaches 2 a.m. No animatronic can move at all on Night 1. This is very important. Keep in mind, this only applies to Night 1. No animatronic can move at all up until 2 a.m. So once the clock strikes 2 a.m., that's when you're going to want to put our strategy into action. But for now, you don't really have to do anything. The reason for this is that Night 1's AI levels, which are the same AI levels that are used on the custom night, initially read 0000. Therefore, no animatronic can move at all. However, how this game works is at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., and at 4 a.m., the AI difficulty of certain animatronics is increased depending on the night. So on Night 1, at 2 a.m., Bonnie's AI will increase by 1, making it a total of 1. At 3 a.m., the AI level of every animatronic except for Freddy will increase by 1, making it 0 to 1, 1. And finally, at 4 a.m., the AI level of every animatronic besides Freddy will once again increase by 1, making it 0, 3, 2, 2. So it's now reached 2 a.m., Bonnie's AI level is hit 1, and he should now be active. There we go, he's gone. So how Bonnie works in this game, unlike any other animatronic, is he can actually teleport wherever he wants. It's not exactly clear why he can do this, but he can. So once he leaves the show stage, if you're extremely unlucky, he could be right outside your door for all you know. He's not currently, but theoretically he could be. So let's look around and try to find him. There he is. He's currently in the dining area, so he didn't go very far. Once he leaves the dining area, once again, he could teleport anywhere. He could be right outside our door. He could be in the supply closet. He could be in the backstage. He could be literally anywhere. So, at least on the left side, there's only certain cameras Bonnie can go through, which, again, this is very basic stuff, but we might as well go through it while we can. The show stage, the dining area, the backstage, the West Hall, the supply closet, West Hall corner, and right outside your left door. Those are the only locations that Bonnie can go. And he is now in the West Hall, it appears. Yes, he is. So Bonnie is currently in the West Hall. He moved there from the dining area. So let's go ahead and just wait for him to come a little bit closer. you will hear footsteps. When you hear those kinds of deep footsteps, it means that either Bonnie or Chica are moving around. It doesn't really mean where, it doesn't get louder if they're close to you or anything, at least not in the original game. But it's important to listen for those, just to know if they've moved without having to check the camera. Another thing that I recommend about Night 1 is making sure to... You don't have to check Pirate's Cove specifically because of how Foxy works, which I'll explain a bit more in depth when we have to actually deal with him in Night 2. Like when he starts becoming a lot more active. But you actually don't have to look at Pirate Cove in order to keep Foxy from moving. You simply have to have the camera monitor up. So I'd recommend checking the cameras. The most optimal way to do it on Night 1 is to use it to pinpoint where Bonnie and Chica are, so that you save power checking your lights, and you save power checking Pirate's Cove. And having to use the camera monitor a little bit more to find out where Bonnie and Chica are, while also being like, okay, well I gotta keep an eye on Foxy, you know, like I gotta figure out where Bonnie and Chica are. Bonnie just moved. He is not outside the door yet. Let's go check where he is. He is in the West Hall corner, so Bonnie is a point of frustration for a lot of new players, and I can understand why, because of how he teleports, the fact that he shows up the door really frequently. If you're new, you might panic seeing he's right next to you and just close this door immediately. You don't actually need to do that until he appears in the blind spot over here, so just be a little patient. I know it might be scary for new players, but just wait for him to move there. He should be doing that any second now, actually, unless he decides to teleport way back out to the West Hall or the dining area. It is now 4 a.m. also, so everyone's AI level has reached the maximum that it will be on Night 1. Bonnie's still just hanging out there. And Chica should have left us now, by now, as well. Her AI level is 2. She is, in fact, gone. Let's see if we can find her. She is in the restroom. She's a little hard to see, but she is up there. Chica isn't someone that you really have to worry about on Night 1. She'll move around, but the chances of her being outside your door over here are very, very unlikely. There's Bonnie. Let's go ahead and close that door. So once Bonnie gets close to you, the strategy that I personally would recommend is checking the left light, turning here, checking the right light, just in case. It's unlikely Chica will be here, but once you hit like 4 a.m., then I'd recommend doing this anyway. So you want to do left light, right light, then you want to pull up the camera. You can look around, try to figure out where Bonnie and Chica are. If you see them like way out here, let's say Bonnie's here, then I know, okay, I don't need to check the left door until I hear footsteps, you know, or if you see them on the camera at all even, you don't need to check the left door until you hear footsteps. So that is very important. You can also use it to pinpoint Chica's location. It's not super important, but if you want to do that and stay on the cameras a little bit longer, then you can. That will prevent Foxy from moving at all on Night 1, so that's one less animatronic you have to worry about, while also gaining as much information as possible. Bonnie likes to stay at the left door for a very long time on Night 1, so let's go ahead and check that. He is gone, so let's open the door. No problem, so we're just going to repeat this strategy. Foxy's peeking, but don't worry, he won't move quick enough to get to us. Bonnie was in a dining area, but he could be anywhere now because he just moved, so let's check left light, right light. Pull up the cameras. Here's Chica, so we don't need to check the right light until we hear footsteps. Check the left light. Pull up the camera again. Left light, camera. Left light, camera. And just repeat this basically over and over until you lose track of Bonnie or Chica, at which point you can start checking the other light. Let's say Chica were to disappear right now, then I would go left light, right light, and then I'd look through the cameras to try to find either her or Bonnie again. Or alternatively, I might check on Foxy just to make sure he's where he's supposed to be. Let's do it again. Left light, right light, pull up the camera, flip through the camera, take a look around, make sure no animatronics are about to get us. I wouldn't recommend staying on the camera monitor for a very long time, by the way. I'd say 5 to 10 seconds probably on Night 1 would be good. If you can't spot an animatronic, particularly Bonnie, on the cameras, then you are going to want to check the light over here just to make sure they're not right outside your office. It will take them a while to attack on Night 1 if they are right outside your office, but the time is still surprisingly short, so if they do happen to be there, you definitely don't want to waste very much time. So it should be rolling around to 6 a.m. any second here. Alright, there we go, 6 a.m. So follow the strategy every time. You should be able to beat Night 1 pretty much every time that you play it. I hope this also went a long way toward explaining some of the fundamentals and some of the basics of this game that are going to be helpful on the later nights. today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 2 on Five Nights at Freddy's. This is a night that I see a lot of beginning players struggle with, and even some experienced players actually die here, like when they're attempting their deathless runs. Then I have seen some experienced players occasionally get caught off guard here, so this is one that I definitely felt that I needed to make a guide on. It is still relatively easy, but it introduces you to a lot more stress, because Foxy starts becoming a bigger threat, obviously, and Bonnie gets really strong also on this night for some reason. By the end of the night, his AI level is 6, which is actually higher than it is, I think, on Night 3 and possibly Night 4 as well by 4 a.m. So let's go ahead and look at the camera monitor here. Bonnie is already gone. He is in the dining area. And we're going to be spending the majority of this night focused on Cam 1C, Pirate Cove. Let me go ahead and mute this phone call real quick. And this night is really where we're going to start to get into the rhythm of the game. And even though it's not the exact same rhythm that we're going to be using for every single night, it's still a really good chance to practice your repetition, because it does contain a lot of the parts of the various strategies that you're going to be doing throughout the rest of the run. So the strategy that we're going to be using for Night 2 is we're going to pull up the camera every 4 to 5 seconds. Foxy's now peeking out because I didn't do it enough while I was talking. So our rhythm's going to be pull up the camera for about, pull up the camera every 4 to 5 seconds and only leave it open for about 1 second. You don't actually need to leave the camera open for a long time at all. And check the left light, check the right light, pull up the camera, close it, right light, left light, camera, close it. So we're just going to repeat this. An alternative strategy, it might actually be better to do. It's not quite as effective, I think, on Night 2, but it would probably be better since this is the strategy that we use for 420 mode. It really gets you into the rhythm of 420 mode, is to... Whoop, there's Bonnie. Let's go ahead and close this. And real quick, while Bonnie's here, there's something else that I wanted to point out that I forgot to mention last time. If you check the light here and you see this shadow on the wall right here, the window is the first place you should look. It's gone now, but you guys saw what it looked like. If that shadow's there, Bonnie's still outside your door. If you turn on the light and it's just a hallway, then he's not there. It's okay to open it. So, most players already know this, but I thought it was good to bring it up just in case, because a lot of newer players may not notice yet if they haven't watched gameplay footage on the game or haven't paid very close attention. Because obviously everyone knows how to see Chica. You're like, oh, okay, you know, Chica's peering through the window. I can see that even with the door closed. But not a lot of people know how to actually tell if Bonnie's still outside the door or not. Foxy is pretty close to leaving Pirate's Cove because I haven't been checking the camera nearly as much as I should have because of how much I've been talking. And what I was saying earlier, one strategy that you can use on this night to help kind of prepare you for 420 mode, which of course is the ultimate goal of this game, is instead of doing this where you check the left light, check the right light, pull the camera down, then you do both the lights again, what you can instead do is pull up the camera, check the right light, and just do this pattern, basically, like only checking one of the lights and then pulling up the camera. And if you do it quick enough, then you're still not going to let Bonnie or Chica in, if you do it quick enough. And this is sort of a modified version of the strategy that I like to use on 420 mode, one of the 2 strategies, and by far the easier one. So if you guys want to get an early start on kind of developing your mechanics, then you can use this strategy as well. But a less mechanically taxing and probably an overall safer way to do it is to just do this. So this is the strategy I'm going to be using for the remainder of the night. As long as you're continuously pulling up the camera, you don't have anything to worry about with Foxy. If you're paying attention, and pulling up the camera consistently, which I wasn't doing earlier, these curtains should still be closed. Like, if I was doing this in an actual run, those curtains would still be closed. So, you guys shouldn't have any problem with Foxy as long as you're doing this pattern and you're checking the camera consistently. And, in fact, if you want to try to figure out where Bonnie and Chica are so that you can save some power checking the lights, then what you can actually do is, here's Chica, right? So, I'm going to close the camera. I know I don't need to check the right light now. Something interesting about Foxy is that you actually don't need to be looking at his camera in order to stall him. You can be looking at any camera. As long as you have the camera monitor up, Foxy will be stalled. The only reason that we use Pirate's Cove for this night is because there's nothing else we have to keep an eye on, really, like Freddy, for example. So, it's okay to just keep it on Pirate's Cove and see how close Foxy is to actually leaving the curtains, which is even more important now that he actually is close. So, I'm going to switch back to Pirate's Cove real quick. But yeah, you actually don't need to have the camera on Pirate's Cove to stall Foxy, which plays into one of the strategies that we're going to be using for 420 mode, so keep that in mind. It's now 3 AM, so if I remember correctly, I may not be entirely accurate on this, but I believe the AI levels right now are 0, 5, I want to say. Yeah, 0, 5, and I think 2 and 2. So Bonnie is the most active of the animatronics by far right now. He just showed up at the door a second ago. And Bonnie is going to show up at your door multiple times this night, but he will leave a lot quicker than night 1 most of the time. So you won't be using as much power as you were using on night 1 to keep him out on a single attempt. So that's nice. So yeah, we just keep using the strategy, just get used to the rhythm of everything. Light, light, camera, pull the camera down quickly. Light, light, camera, light, camera, light, camera is the alt strategy you can use. Light, light, camera, light, light, camera, or alternatively, light, camera, light, camera. Just get used to the rhythm of it. The reason I'm repeating it so much, I know it's a little annoying, but it's just to drill it into your head and make sure that you really know the strategy that you're doing and how to repeat it. You should be having this in your head. This should be one of the #1 things that's in your head is, what is my strategy? Like, what do I need to repeat? What parts of it do I need to repeat no matter what? And what parts of it are situational? The only situational thing right now that I think is, okay, if I hear a noise and I see an animatronic right here, then close the door. That's really the only thing I would have to adapt here to, because I know Foxy's not going to leave Pirate's Cove. If he did, obviously, if these curtains were empty, I would avoid switching to the West Hall, and I would close the door. And real quickly, how Foxy works is, if you look at Cam 1C, you'll see the curtains are open, Foxy's left. 25 seconds after he leaves, then he will sprint down the West Hall and he will kill you, so you have about, I'd say 26.5 seconds probably in total after he leaves Pirate's Cove to close the door. And if you check the West Hall at any point while those curtains are open, he will come sprinting down the West Hall immediately, leaving you with a very limited time to close the door. So I would never, under any circumstances, recommend checking the West Hall. There's no reason to. Like, even if Bonnie's there on the early nights, if Foxy's remotely close to sprinting, then there's no reason to check the West Hall. If the curtains are closed, then you're probably fine, but if he's remotely close to sprinting, then he definitely can kill you. Another audio cue that tends to play a lot is the sound of pots and pans clanking, which signals that Chica is in the kitchen. Chica is the only animatronic who makes that specific noise, even though she's not the only animatronic to enter the kitchen. So if you hear that noise, then you know that you don't need to check the right light until the noise stops. Got about 24% power left right now. There's Bonnie again. Bonnie showed up like 5 times this night already, so that just gives you an idea of how truly aggressive he is. And of course, it's 5 AM, so at 4 AM, every animatronic's AI level went up by 1, besides Freddy. So Bonnie's AI level is now at 6, which is actually higher, I believe, than it is at the start of Night 5. So think about that. It's 5 AM, and Bonnie's AI level on Night 2 is higher than it is at 1 AM on Night 5. Like, it's crazy to think about. He's so aggressive. And that's really what makes Night 2 a pain for newer players is, there's 2 things, really, which is Bonnie catching them off guard, them getting scared, you know, Bonnie showing up constantly and panicking, either using too much power or looking at the cameras too long and accidentally letting him in. And then there's just not understanding how Foxy works, which is sometimes what leads to Bonnie killing you, is spending so much time on the cameras, like, sometimes not checking the cameras enough because they think if they check it too often, then he'll move also, which I think is a rumor started from the phone call of this game. There's the 6th time, I believe, that Bonnie showed up tonight. So, yeah, extremely aggressive. Bonnie and Foxy are the only main threats, really. You'll notice that Chica hasn't showed up the right door yet at all on Night 1 or Night 2. So there it is, guys, 6 AM. At this point, of course, we'll move on to Night 3. I'll be making a guide for that tomorrow, most likely. Night 3 is a very interesting night that I'm excited to talk about. And I'm going to be explaining, of course, some of the fundamentals of how Freddy moves and stuff like that, because this is the first night that he activates. today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 3 on Five Nights at Freddy's. Night 3 is a night that tends to stress out a lot of players, and there are some valid reasons why they'd be stressed out, but it's actually very easy, and I'm going to show you a strategy today that will allow you to beat it every time. Also going to be going over some of the fundamentals, of course, of the game that I may not have talked about before, particularly relating to Freddy, since this is the first night that he activates. So let's go ahead and get into it. And what we're going to do to start this night off is we're just going to spam the camera like this. Like just pull it up and immediately put it down as soon as the image flashes. There's a reason why we're doing this. One of the reasons is to actually practice, because we are going to be using this mechanical later for 420 mode. But the other reason is that it actually is helpful because it prevents Freddy and Foxy from being able to move early, which is what we want. Our main goal on this night is to stall both Freddy and Foxy for as long as possible. The reason that we're doing this on the show stage and not Pirate's Cove is so that Freddy will also be stalled. Unlike Foxy, Freddy cannot move if you're looking at the camera, but only if it's actually the camera that he's currently on. So you do have to be looking at wherever he is, which is currently the show stage, of course. And one other thing that I wanted to mention about this night is Bonnie's AI level actually is 0 at the start of the night, so Bonnie cannot move until at least 2 AM. So there's literally no need at all to check the left light until at least 2 AM. He usually won't be there until like 3 AM or after even, so no need to check the left light for a while, which is the big reason why this night isn't much harder. So we're going to go ahead and start checking the right light now as well, since Chica's been gone for a while. Unlike Bonnie, Chica cannot teleport, so it will take her a while to get over here. I don't think she's necessarily close yet, but, you know, better safe than sorry. It's always best to start checking the light pretty early. It's not going to use too much power, and, you know, it's better than just randomly dying to Chica. So, let's flip over to Pirate's Cove real quick. You are going to want to occasionally check Pirate's Cove. Just occasionally, you know, like, you don't want to keep the camera on there for too long, obviously, because you want to be stalling Freddy in the process, but especially if you're anxious about Foxy moving, since you're not looking at him, I'd recommend just check it every hour. Like, there's no need to check it any more than that. Okay, Chica's gone, so let's go ahead and open up that door again. So, yeah, this is pretty much what you're just going to do for the entire night up until about 2 or 3 AM. Until Bonnie leaves the stage, there's no need to do anything else. Just start checking the right light here. Right light, camera, put it down. Right light, camera, put it down. Just repeat this strategy over and over and over. This is going to be a little boring, and it may stress your hand a little bit that you're using on the mouse, since you're going to have to be flicking it down so constantly, but you're going to be pulling up the camera and putting it down a lot more and a lot faster than this on 420 mode, so it's good practice anyway. Once it hits 2 AM, I'm going to go check on Foxy again, just make sure that he's in its proper place. Last time we checked, the curtains were closed, so that's just proof that the strategy does work. Foxy's not moved at all because of how often we're viewing the camera, even though we're not looking at Cam 1C. It's probably going to cause some anxiety, like I said, in some newer players. If you're not 100% sure if the strategy's working, this is why I say check Foxy every hour, which I would recommend for beginners and even for advanced players, because there's a small chance that if you're not checking the cameras often enough, Foxy can still move. So I'd recommend it regardless, but it also kind of helps with that anxiety of, okay, well, you know, like, I don't think he's moving, but I can't actually see him, so it's going to be really scary or really annoying or whatever if he runs down this hallway and kills me, right? Okay, so Bonnie just left. He actually left quite a bit earlier than I thought. So we're going to start checking the left light pretty shortly. I hear footsteps, not sure what side that's on, but once again, better safe than sorry, so let's go ahead and start checking the left light. And here you're basically just going to be using Night 2 strategy from now on, with the added thing of checking Pirate's Cove every hour, because obviously your camera is now on the show stage instead of Pirate's Cove. So there's two strategies you can use here. You can either do light, camera, or you can do light, camera, which is slower. For this night, just to make sure that Foxy and Freddy don't move, I personally would recommend light, camera, like only check one light. If you are pulling up and putting down the camera quick enough, then you will be completely fine here. As long as you're doing it quick enough, there's no way that Bonnie or Chica is going to break in. Chica is staying at the door for a very long time, so I'm not really sure what's up with that. We're going to lose more power than intended, but we should still be okay here. Once it hits 3 AM, we'll go back to Pirate's Cove and check on Foxy, just to be safe. Freddy's still there, okay. It is now 3 AM. Chica is gone. Let's go ahead and check on Foxy real quick. Okay, Foxy's still not moving, so Foxy will not be a problem this night as long as we keep this pattern up. And this strategy is just so effective on night 3 because it completely rules out Freddy and Foxy. So, I mean, those are the two biggest threats of the entire game. You know, like, as long as you have good reflexes, Bonnie and Chica are almost never going to cause you much issues. They'll drain power for a little while, you know, like, based on RNG, how long they stay there. But they're not really going to be a big problem. It's always Freddy and Foxy that are the big threats. So, if you can take those guys out, then you shouldn't have any problem as long as you have decent reflexes. You can stay on the camera a little bit longer than I am right now, by the way, like 1 second longer if you're not quite sure where to look yet. I know exactly where to look on all of the cameras because I played this game for a really long time. But if you are a newer player, and you're not quite sure if Freddy is still on the stage, you can be like, okay, you know, I see him, let's put down the camera. There's a little bit higher risk that you could die to Bonnie or Chica, but on night 3, it's not a very large one, so you should be fine regardless. So just make sure you're ready to close the door at any opportunity as soon as you see an animatronic in the doorway. Chica is going to show up a lot on this night. This is one of the nights where she's most aggressive, which is why I think night 3 is one of the most unique and interesting nights in the game. Is Bonnie's almost non-existent in the first half of the night, and almost just the night in general. And Chica's very aggressive. Like, I think her AI level is actually higher, or, no, it's not higher. It's around the same, I think, as it is at the start of night 5, which is just insane. Like, by the end of night 3, she's as aggressive as she is at the start of night 5, which is just crazy. Okay. Foxy's still in his curtains, no problem there. Let's open up that door since Chica's gone. We are running a little bit low on power. There have been some unfortunate things happening, such as Chica staying at the door longer than she ordinarily would. But no problems there. As long as we keep up the strategy, then we'll still have enough power left to survive the night. Even if the power does cut off, we're going to be extremely close to 6 a.m., so there's nothing to worry about there. Just keep going. Light, camera. Light, camera. The animatronic is there. Close the door. Once again, like I mentioned last time, Bonnie's shadow is right here. Once that goes away, we know he's gone. But if you see his shadow, he's still there, so no need to open the door to check. And I am using a little bit more power probably than I should just by continuously checking the left light this often. But, of course, once I see Bonnie's gone, I want to know he's gone as early as possible so I can open the door. So, it might lose you a little bit of power overall, but it depends on how long he stays. And Bonnie typically doesn't stay as long as Chica. Let's go ahead and check on Pirate's Cove again one last time. Foxy is still behind the curtains, rendered non-existent on this night. So Foxy is not a threat. As long as you do the strategy, Foxy will never attack you. Hear footsteps in one of the hallways. One other thing that I wanted to mention, I would not recommend trying to play this game without sound cues. I would recommend cranking up your volume pretty high, actually. I know the sound that the animatronics make when they attack you and some of the other sound cues can be pretty frightening for a new player, but trust me, you are going to be way more likely to succeed if you do have your volume turned up to a good level. You won't use as much power because you can rely on sound cues easier, and it'll get used to the flow of the game overall. We are starting to run low on power here, as you can see. So I do have a little backup strategy that I'm going to show off here that is going to be what you're going to be using in 420 mode, and whenever you start to run out of power, you're going to want to do this. So once we hit 6%, we're going to check on Foxy. He's behind the curtain, and what we're going to do is we're going to look over here, and we're going to do nothing. We're not going to move the mouse. We're not going to check the door lights. We're not going to pull up the camera. We're not going to do anything. And the reason why we do this is no animatronic besides Foxy can kill us while we have the camera monitor down. As long as you didn't already let Freddy in, there's not going to be a problem. He's not going to get in, and there you go, 6 a.m. There's a chance that I could have ran out of power if I kept doing that strategy that I was doing, and then there's a very small chance that I could have died to Freddy there. So once you hit like 6% power, if Foxy is in a very early stage, like if he's in the curtains or just peeking out, then you can absolutely afford to do that. It's going to be a little frightening, but I mean, you can even just stand up and walk out of the room if it makes you feel better. Like, you know, it's a good strategy regardless. It's a good backup strategy if you do happen to run low on power like I did there. Today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 4 on Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's just get straight into it. Night 4 is a night that a lot of newer players, obviously, and even experienced players tend to struggle with because it is the first time that all 4 of the animatronics are fairly aggressive. Foxy, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica will all be moving around a lot on this night, so we are going to be using a similar strategy to Night 3, but there are going to be some differences, which I will explain. Chica's already left the stage. Just like Night 3, you're going to want to practice your cam spamming here. Just raise it up and down on the show stage. Don't bother with Pirate's Cove. It's fine. The reason we want to do this so much early... Let me go ahead and mute this call. The reason that we want to do this so much early, of course, is to lock Freddy and Foxy in place. I expand on this a little bit more in my Night 3 guide, so you may want to check that out if you're curious about the specifics of how it works. So we're just going to keep doing this. Chica has already left the stage, but it is no big deal. Once we hear footsteps in the right hall, then we will know that Chica is getting close, as unlike Bonnie, Chica cannot teleport and can only move to adjacent rooms, so it is going to take Chica a while. She's now in the kitchen, as you can hear from the sound of pots and pans, so she will be here shortly, but no reason to waste power checking lights until she actually arrives. We can kind of stall Bonnie for a little bit on the stage also doing this. I think he just left. So, this is what makes Night 4 different than Night 3, in my opinion, and more difficult by a significant margin. It's not because Freddy and Foxy are more aggressive. As long as you're using this strategy, you're not going to have any problems with them. The main thing is that Bonnie is now activated as early as 12 a.m., as opposed to 2 or 3 a.m., as on Night 3. And I hear pots and pans, so I don't need to check the right hallway right now. But Bonnie does activate a lot earlier than he does on Night 3, which means you are going to have to use more power to check the lights and maybe close the door if he gets close to you. So just keep that in mind. That's going to be the main problem here early, is that Bonnie is going to drain more power than he did on Night 3 by a significant margin. So you are more likely to run out of power on this night if you don't handle yourself optimally. But thankfully, I'm showing you guys exactly how to do that, and we shouldn't have any problem. I would recommend using the light, camera strategy here, as opposed to light, camera, light, camera. It's just much faster to do light, camera. It stalls Freddy and Foxy much more efficiently, and you're going to want to practice this anyway, as we are going to be doing 420 mode soon. Speaking of which, I will be doing a guide on 420 mode very, very shortly, so if you guys are excited to learn how to beat this mode every single time, possibly on your first try, be sure to subscribe to the channel, just so you don't miss that video. It is going to be an absolutely huge one. I'm really excited to make it. Hopefully it's going to help a lot of you guys out there that have struggled with 420 mode over the last few years. Maybe you're brand new to the game, maybe you played back in 2014, but you couldn't beat 420 mode. Either way, I'm going to show you a strategy. It's super beginner friendly and will allow you to win 100% of the time. This is just what we want to do. We want to go light, camera. If you prefer, every hour or so, you can flip over to Pirate's Cove real quick just to check on Foxy, just to make sure he's not moving. As you can see, when I check there, I'll check there again. The curtains are closed, so we are fine. He's not moving out of the curtains just yet, so we are good. The strategy is working just as intended. Freddy's still on the stage, Foxy is still in his curtains, and everything is okay. We haven't even seen an animatronic at the door yet, actually. You may see an animatronic by this point, so just remember, don't panic and close the door. Even though the time to close the door does shrink with every night, it is still more than enough to be able to close the door in time, as long as you don't panic, and as long as you are using this strategy of light, camera, and just repeat this over and over. You will have zero problems with this night as long as you use this strategy and you have decent reflexes. Chica is in the kitchen. I'm going to use that sound cue to save a little bit of power here. No need to check the right light for a few seconds. Now we'll start checking it again. I believe the sound has stopped. Never mind, the sound is still going. I simply misheard it. If you don't think that you hear a sound cue, but you're not sure, it's probably best to start doing whatever you need to do. Like, basically just assume that you're not hearing the sound cue. Once again, the philosophy we use for this game is better safe than sorry. If you heard Chica in the kitchen, but you're not sure if she's in there anymore, if you can't hear the pots and pans very clearly over all the other noises, then it's always best to assume that she left the kitchen. Check on Foxy again. No problemo. He's still in his curtains at 3 a.m. Not moving at all. Freddy's still on the stage. We got no problems here. We'll know if Freddy leaves the stage even without seeing him, as we will hear his laugh. Very distinct sound. Can't really mistake it for anything else. But as long as you follow the strategy, once again, Freddy and Foxy will not be able to move at all for the entire duration of the night. I think it's actually rather strange that an animatronic hasn't turned up outside the doorway yet. Typically they do by now. Bonnie or Chica would be there. I hear them in the hallways, so they'll probably show up in a few seconds. Once again, just make sure you don't panic. Make sure you have decent reflexes. You have nothing to worry about. Don't need to worry about Freddy and Foxy as long as you're using the strategy, so just focus on your mechanics. Got some hallucinations going on there. Hallucinations tend to freak out newer players a little bit. Just remember, they actually don't mean anything. They're just a random event that can occur. They don't mean the animatronics are going to get more aggressive. They don't mean you're going to die. They're just a little spooky thing that happens occasionally. It's 4 a.m. Let's check on Foxy again. He is not moving at all, as you can see. Everything is going according to plan. All good here. And the animatronic is in the hallway, it sounds like. Not sure if that's Bonnie or Chica. Chica is in the kitchen, as you can hear from the pots and pans, if you listen closely. We're in a good position right now. We have 41% power left, and it is about midway through 4 a.m. So we are at almost no risk at all of running out of power here. If I wanted to, I could win this night by simply closing the left door and just sitting here for the rest of the night, as Freddy wouldn't be able to get close enough to me to attack in time. And let me show you guys something real quick. So if I were to decide that I wanted to close the left door, and I wanted to stop Freddy from being able to kill me, how I would go about it is I would make sure that I was on this camera right here, the East Hall Corner Cam 4B. The reason for this is that if you're looking at that camera, even if you do not have the camera monitor pulled up, I believe that will stall Freddy from moving. He will not be able to enter the office as long as you are looking at the camera he is currently on. And I made a little bit of a whoopsie here because I was just trying to demonstrate to you guys exactly what I would do in a certain scenario that is unlikely to happen. So, Freddy has now moved. Be sure to listen for his laugh. You can figure out where he is a lot quicker than looking through the cameras for him, because he does like to hide. He's sneaky like that. So I heard his laugh just once, so I know he's in the dining area. There are his eyes right there. There's static, but I did not hear a laugh. That means Freddy is not leaving. It means that either Bonnie or Chica has entered the dining area with him. Not sure who it is or if they're still there. And here's another sound cue real quick that some of you guys may not know about. Keep in mind, this only applies from night 4 onward. This does not happen on the first 3 nights. When an animatronic is in either the West Hall or the East Hall corner, you can hear the same sounds that you would hear while you're having hallucinations, like this kind of robotic garble. You can hear that even if you're not looking at the cameras. And there's Chica out in the dining area, so I need to check the right light here. You will notice that Freddy seems to have disappeared here. No need to be alarmed. We know that since we did not hear his laugh, he did not actually leave. How this game works is it actually cannot load multiple animatronics on the same camera at the same time. So if you can't find an animatronic anywhere, there's a good chance that 2 of them are in the same room. So you do want to be looking at wherever Freddy is. If you do happen to slip up, it's okay. Just know where he goes. He goes from show stage to dining area to restrooms to kitchen to East Hall corner. That's his route. Keep that in mind. Always check where he is. If you want to, you can check Foxy every 1 or 2 hours just to be safe. Today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 5 of Five Nights at Freddy's, the last night in the main game, of course. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Now, before we get thrown into the action, I just wanted to remind you guys that I am going to be doing a 420 mode guide very shortly, as well as some guides on Five Nights at Freddy's 2 after that. So, if you're not already, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you do not miss those guides. They're going to be very, very important. I'm really excited to work on them, so yeah, can't wait to show you guys. Alright, so if you guys watched my 2 previous videos, then you should know the strategy we're going to be using by now. It's not really much different for Night 5. Let's go ahead and mute this phone call. Very loud. So, the strategy, of course, is going to be light, camera, light, camera, light, camera. If you prefer, you can do light, light, camera, light, light, camera, like this. But the more efficient strategy for Night 5, and the one that we're going to be using for the easy strategy of 420 mode, which I'll explain in the 420 mode guide, is going to be light, camera, light, camera. Just keep doing this, basically. Alright, so we got the strategy down now, pretty much. You are going to want to be keeping the camera on the show stage for most of the night, as that will prevent Freddy from moving. The main goal of this night, along with, of course, keeping Bonnie and Chica out with your reflexes, is to ensure that Freddy does not leave the stage and Foxy does not leave Pirate's Cove. If you keep those two locked up, then you should be fine here. You shouldn't run out of power. It should be a pretty easy night overall, as long as you stick to the plan. We are going to be checking Pirate's Cove every 1 or 2 hours just to ensure that Foxy has not left. He shouldn't if we're using the strategy, but especially for newer players who may be a little nervous, it's always best to check on him just in case. And another thing that I wanted to talk about, now that we've got the strategy down, is I have talked about a lot, I have talked a lot about AI levels in the past, but I haven't really specified what they mean. So, I can't remember the specific AI levels for this night. I think Foxy's is 6 and Freddy's is 4. That's pretty much all I remember. But what I do know is that basically how AI levels work is that every 3 to 5 seconds, depending on the animatronic, with Freddy having the most movement opportunities per minute and Foxy having the least, every 3 to 5 seconds, then an animatronic is going to have a movement opportunity that has a random chance to succeed or fail. And it gets increasingly more likely that it will succeed the higher their AI level is. So if an animatronic's AI level is 1, they only have a 5% chance to move every every movement opportunity. I'm having trouble talking today for some reason. So every movement opportunity, if their AI level is 1, they will only have a 5% chance to succeed. Whereas if their AI level is 20, they have a 100% chance to succeed, and they will move every single time. And the AI system is used throughout every night in the game, not just 420 mode, or custom night rather, so keep that in mind. So that's a little bit about how AI levels work. Foxy's works slightly differently. Basically, he goes into a locked state every time the camera is up, in which his movement opportunities will automatically fail regardless of his AI level or current position. After lowering the camera, he will remain locked for anywhere from, I think, 0.83 seconds, I want to say, to 16 some seconds, and it can literally be any frame in between those. So it is very random indeed on when he actually decides to move and whether he actually does move. But by raising the camera constantly, we can virtually keep him locked in place the entire night. If we check Pirate's Cove, the curtains are closed, he's not moved at all, every movement opportunity has failed. So the plan is doing its job. And of course, you do need to have good reflexes for this strategy, which is why we start practicing it pretty early in easier nights, so that we can do it when better reflexes may be required, since Bonnie or Chica can get in really quick by this point, and we're going to have to raise and lower the monitor very quickly in order to ensure no animatronic gets in, to make the strategy of light camera work optimally. Chica is in the kitchen, so no need to check the right light until that stops. I don't hear it anymore, so let's start checking the right light again. You do want to be paying attention to sound cues the entire time, by the way. I've been a little bit zoned out while I've been talking, but you are going to want to pay attention to sound cues constantly. Like right now, I hear Chica in the kitchen again, so I know that I don't need to check the right light for a few seconds, or until I stop hearing the pots and pans banging. That's one of the most important sound cues, I would say. Other very, very important sound cues are noises such as Freddy laughing. In that case, we know that he has moved one position. So if he was on the show stage and he laughs, I know he's now in the dining area. If he's in the dining area and laughs, then I know he's in the restrooms, and so on and so forth. Then there's the audio cue of Foxy singing, which I believe signals that he is not currently about to leave Pirates Cove, so that's good to know as well. Speaking of Foxy, let's check on him again. Curtains are still closed, he's not showing any sign of moving. Strategy is working just as planned. Other audio cues, of course, that are paired with visuals, like animatronics showing up in the doorway, are more meant to scare you than anything else, but during something like a blindfolded run, or if you're just not paying very close attention, then it can help you. Sometimes that noise will not play, I think, if you've recently seen an animatronic in the doorway. So, regardless of what it is, you do want to be paying attention to sound cues, but the sound cues, of course, are useless if you don't know what they actually mean. Another sound cue that it won't really help you necessarily because you're already pretty much dead by this point. But if you have the camera up and you hear what sounds like heavy breathing or groaning in the office, then do not lower the camera. If you are already at 5 a.m., there's a chance you can hold out. About 30 seconds after getting into the office, Bonnie or Chica will force down the camera and will kill you anyway. But you do have a greater chance of survival if you're at 5 a.m. if you just don't do anything and wait for them to force down the camera. Because if you pull it down at that point, you will die. Let's just keep the strategy up here. Seems to be working. It's 4 a.m. We have 35% power. Not bad. We should not run out of power on this night, I would think. I'm about to check Foxy again in just a second. That'll probably be the last time that we check him on this night. Might check him one more time. Okay, curtain's still closed. He's not doing anything. As long as we keep the strategy up, he will not move. And this is basically going to be the exact strategy that we're going to be using for 420. We are going to have a little bit faster reflexes and move a little bit quicker overall. But this is the same strategy that we're going to use for 420 mode, basically. There's some modifications, like we're going to have the camera on the East Hall corner instead of the show stage, and I'll explain why that is once we get there. And every time that we check Pirates Cove, we are also going to have to close the right door. Once again, I'll explain that more in depth once we get to 420 mode. Should only be a few days anyway. It is now 5 a.m., 26% power. There's Bonnie, close the door, of course. He's now gone. As the AI levels get higher, the animatronics will typically leave the door much quicker. As you can see, Bonnie leaves nearly instantly after we close the door. Whereas on night 1 and 2, he was staying by the door for a while and draining some power. This is to compensate for the fact that the animatronics show up more frequently on later nights and higher AI levels. Otherwise, they'd show up constantly and they'd pretty much be at your door all night. There'd be no way to avoid running out of power. So, nice little balance optimization there. Another sound cue, of course, that may be a little hard to hear is deep footsteps. This means that either Bonnie or Chica is currently in either the West Hall corner, the East Hall, or the East Hall corner. So basically, they're in the hallways, so you should expect to see them at the door, especially soon. It is 15% power. We can keep doing the strategy for the entire rest of the night with no problem, and we will still beat the night with the lights on. But in order to make it a little bit less strenuous on you guys, because your hand would probably be getting pretty tired by this point if you don't do this regularly, what I would suggest doing is we're going to check Foxy. It's not moving at all? Okay. We hit 6 a.m., but what I was going to do was just open the right door after Chica left and just not move. And that way you can kind of rest your hand a little bit while all of that's going on. And that's the stall strategy that I was talking about that I believe I mentioned during the Night 4 guide. So if you want to hear more about that in depth, then be sure to watch the Night 4 guide as well. So that's it, guys. We beat the main game. We got a check for $120, which made this nightmare worth it, I'm sure. Of course, there is more. There is a 6th night, which I'll be making a guide for shortly, along with the infamous 420 mode. So I am going to be teaching you guys how to beat this game as a whole, but you should feel good about yourself. You just beat the main game, you've got this first star on the menu. Feels pretty good. You did beat 5 Nights at Freddy's, so congrats on that. So yeah, we are going to be talking about Night 6 and Custom Night very soon, and then we are going to move on to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 after. Today I'm going to be showing you how to beat Night 6 on Five Nights at Freddy's, so let's go ahead and get into it. Night 6, of course, is a bonus night that unlocks after beating the main game. I've already made guides for Night 5 and everything before it, so if you have not gotten to this point yet, be sure to watch those guides first. In my previous guides, I went a little bit more in-depth into the strategy that I'm using, so on this video, it's pretty much the same, so I think I'm just going to be doing a quick recap of the overall strategy and then talking about some backups and fail-safes, as well as a few bits of information about how the AI works that I may have forgotten to mention so far. You are going to want to raise the camera a lot early on, up until an animatronic enters the hallways. This is to keep Freddy and Foxy locked in place for as long as possible. There's no reason not to do it. Around here, you are going to want to start checking the lights. We are going to be only checking one light and then raising the monitor. So we're going to be doing light, camera, camera, and just repeat this, basically, for the entire night, and you should be fine. However, there are going to be some backups and fail-safes that we can use just in case something goes wrong. Maybe you made a error mechanically, maybe you just have really bad RNG and Foxy was able to advance further than he should have. Anyway, we are going to be talking about some backups and fail-safes should you not keep Freddy and Foxy locked in place for the entire night. You will know when Freddy moves as you will hear his laughter. This means that he has moved one room. He moves from the show stage to the dining area, to the restrooms, to the kitchen, to the east hall, to the east hall corner, at which point he will be right outside your office. Every time you hear him laugh, he has moved one room, and it will always be in the order that I just said. Always remember what camera he is currently on in order to know what camera he moved to. You can do this without even knowing necessarily what camera he's on by looking at the camera. All you have to do is keep track of how many times he laughs. If he laughs 2 times, then he is in the restrooms. If he laughs 4 times, he is in the East Hall, and so on and so forth. Once Freddy reaches the East Hall corner, our strategy is going to change entirely. Once Freddy is in the East Hall corner, flipping off the East Hall corner camera at all will result in Freddy entering the office and killing you if the right door is open. This means actually switching off of the camera, not just lowering the monitor. So if I'm on the East Hall corner and I switch to show stage, then Freddy would kill me if he was in the East Hall corner and if the door was open. What we are going to do to prevent this is every time that we have to check another camera, mostly Pirates Cove, that's the only camera you would really need to check aside from the West Hall, which I'll explain why you would need to check that in a little bit. But what we would do in this scenario is we would close the right door like this, flip over, flip back, open this if Chica's not there, and repeat. So let me go back to the show stage. So yeah, you are going to want to keep the right door closed whenever flipping off of the East Hall corner camera when Freddy is there. But ideally, we should be able to prevent him from ever getting there. Even if he leaves the show stage, he still has quite a while to go before arriving at the East Hall corner. So Freddy should never reach that point on anything before Night 7, anything before 420 mode. And now we're going to talk about Foxy a little bit more, some backup strategies that you can potentially use for him. Let's say you get unlucky and Foxy starts inching forward, and eventually he manages to leave Pirates Cove and starts running down the hallway. First, you need to even figure out that he's gone. In order to do this, of course, you have to check the Pirate Cove camera, as there are no sound cues that will actually tell you when Foxy has left Pirates Cove. What you're going to want to do in this scenario, let's say Foxy was standing outside of Pirates Cove the last time we looked, so we know that he's going to run pretty soon. Whenever you suspect that he may have run, you're going to want to close the right door, if Freddy's in the East Hall corner, of course, so you don't need to otherwise. Flip over here. And if the curtains are open, then you're going to want to check the West Hall. What this will do is it will instantly trigger Foxy's attack. And you may wonder, why would we want to trigger Foxy's attack? Keep in mind, this is assuming you have the left door closed. Always close the left door, rather. Sorry. Always close the left door before you check the West Hall, under any circumstances. And you may wonder why we want to trigger Foxy's attack instantly. It seems like a weird thing to want. Like, why would you want an animatronic to attack you and then reset quicker? The answer is simply control. If we check Pirates Cove and the curtains are empty, Foxy could attack in 2 seconds. He could attack in 25 seconds. We don't know when he left unless we just checked recently. So after 25 seconds, Foxy will run down the hallway and he will attack you if the left door is open. We don't want to be wondering when he's going to arrive and holding the left door closed for 25 seconds when we don't need to. We want to check the West Hall, which will instantly trigger Foxy's attack after he's left Pirate's Cove, and he will instantly come barreling down the hallway and will arrive at the door. If the left door is closed, he will bang on the door, and we can successfully open it. You can actually open it in the middle of him banging on the door. The sound effect will continue, but he will not enter the office. As soon as you hear the sound cue, he's already hit the door and reset the Pirate Cove. Sometimes, when he resets to Pirate Cove, he can reset to his peeking stage instead of the curtains are closed stage when he's on very high AI levels. So, keep in mind there is some potential that Foxy may be peeking out of the curtain instantly when he resets. No need to worry about it as long as you can keep him locked in place for a while. Another thing that I think most players know about, but some beginners may not be fully aware of, is that Foxy drains power every time that he hits the door, and it increases every single time. The first time Foxy hits the door, he drains 1% power, which it can sometimes make the difference on a 420 mode run, but it's almost always going to be not really noticeable at all. But when he hits the door a second time, that's when you start having problems. This time, it drains 6% power, so you've lost a total of 7% power from Foxy by this point. That spells death on a 420 mode run, and it can spell death on a night 5 or 6 run if you're running low on power. Any run, in fact. Any night. You can be on night 1. And if he knocks twice, it's very, very unlikely he'd knock twice. But if he does for some reason, then you might lose tonight if you're low on power. So, you need to constantly be aware of that, and that's actually the main reason why we try to keep Foxy from arriving. He is peeking now. I thought that the curtains would be closed, but sometimes you just get bad RNG, sometimes he peeks out early. I explained a bit more about how Foxy's AI affects him in the Night 5 guide. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check out the Night 5 guide. I explained quite a bit more about it in there. And yeah, you're pretty much just going to want to do a strategy for the entire night, and Freddy and Foxy shouldn't really give you any problems as long as you're doing it optimally. It might take some practice to get the rhythm, and it definitely takes some mechanics, but it will allow you to beat Night 6 pretty much any time. Should allow you to beat it with the power on, unless you get really unlucky. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about is how animatronic resets work, like where they go when they hit the door and you blocked him out. Foxy, I already talked about, he resets the Pirate's Cove, either in Stage 1 or Stage 2, where he's peeking out. Bonnie and Chica are a little bit different. Once they leave the door, they will reset to the dining area every single time, regardless of if it's Bonnie or Chica. They will always reset to the dining area. And Freddy is the last one. What he will do when you close the right door and he's in the East Hall corner and he moves forward because you're not watching the camera, what he will do is reset out to the East Hall, not the dining area, so he barely moves at all. It is a strategy that you can use to have Freddy teleport out to the East Hall so that you're in no danger of being killed by him until he moves again. But I would not recommend it. It's a little bit hard to set up and the payoff is very small. So I would not recommend it. Just deal with him while he's in the East Hall corner. It's easier. And ideally, of course, before 420 mode, we want to prevent him from getting there, or moving at all even, at all costs. If Freddy were to laugh right now, what I would do is instantly switch to the dining area camera, and I would start viewing that instead. Let's go ahead and take a look at Pirate's Cove here. Foxy is standing, so we have had some bad RNG here, even though we are raising the camera pretty repeatedly. Foxy has started to move a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the stalling strategy. I'm going to say, once I hit, let's say 4% power, just because Foxy's closer than he normally is. Once I hit 4% power, I'm going to check Foxy to make sure he hasn't left yet, and I'm just going to stop moving my mouse. I'm just going to sit there and do nothing, so let's check. Still standing? Okay. I'm going to put my mouse here and do nothing. Foxy is the only animatronic who can kill me in this situation, so pretty much all we have to do is sit here and hope that we reach 6 AM, or at least the power goes out before he arrives. When the power does go out, no animatronic can kill you at that time. Freddy has to actually appear in the doorway and kill you that way. So, there we go, guys. That's Night 6. I hope I helped you guys out here. I didn't explain the strategy that we're using in depth necessarily, because I'd already explained it in depth numerous times already on previous videos. I just wanted to discuss some backup strategies and show you guys how Night 6 is a little bit harder, but it really is doable. Today I'm going to be showing you how to beat 420 mode on Five Nights at Freddy's. So it's been a while since I did a FNaF 1 video. I was putting this one off for a while because I wasn't really sure how it was going to work. I didn't know if I was going to do post or live commentary. I didn't know what the format was going to be. Basically, I had no clue what I was doing. So anyway, I finally decided to get it out of the way today. So I just recorded this run about half an hour ago, I think. And basically, I'm just going to commentate over it and do a mix of saying what was going through my head at the time and what I was prioritizing, and try to make it a bit more comprehensive and detailed, and just tell you guys like objectively what you need to do, what works for me, all that kind of, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to this one, honestly. I am doing post commentary right now, which I've never tried before, so I'm probably not going to be very good at it, but it's going to be a fun change up anyway. So yeah, no more wasting time on the intro. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys the basic strategy while we're sitting here on the main menu. So the basic strategy, in case you haven't followed FNaF 1 since 2014, is entirely new from what it was back then. It's no longer the put the right door down every time you pull up the monitor. That was just, it was so hard to do. It was really difficult. So there's a much better strategy. It saves power and it's easier to do, so that pretty much anyone, no matter who you are, you can now beat 420 mode if you know what the strategy is and with just a little bit of practice. So this new strategy is to pull up the camera and leave it on the east hull corner for most of the night, and basically just spam check the camera. So we're going to be doing light camera, light camera. If you've watched my guides before, you know what that is. If you don't, we're just going to check one door light. We're going to pull up the monitor, put it down, check the opposite door light, pull up the monitor, put it down, and then just repeat. So this is a very good strategy. The reason why it works is that you actually don't need to be looking at Pirate's Cove in order to continuously stall Foxy. You just need to have the camera up in the first place. So this allows you to stall both Freddy in the east hull corner without having to put down the door and Foxy in Pirate's Cove in one fell swoop. So the obvious downside to this is that you can't see where Foxy is and how close he is to running down the hallway. However, there is a very simple fix to this. Every time that Chica appears at the door, for example, which is something I like to do, then when I put the right door down, after making sure Bonnie isn't at the left door, of course, then I'll pull up the monitor, switch over to Pirate's Cove, check on Foxy, and then switch the camera back to the east hull corner. So we're loading into it right now. As you can see, I am spamming the camera. I immediately put it to Cam 4B, and I'm just pulling it up constantly. Less than a second passes, basically, with it down. I'm just doing this. It saves power. It's incredibly efficient. Yeah, so it works really well. So around 97% power, I think, is when you want to start checking the door lights. So I'm moving very quickly right now. You guys don't have to move this quick, but it does help. Obviously, it saves a bit of power if you're able to turn off the lights instantly. I am human. I do make mistakes later in this run, quite a lot of them. I'm playing on a new monitor. When I did this, that I literally just got the day before, so I wasn't used to the resolution yet. So I was like not being able to turn off the lights sometimes. So it looks like I'm moving insanely quickly, but it's really not that difficult to do with a little bit of practice. So yeah, we're just doing light camera, and continuously checking the east hull corner. This works extremely well. This is way better than the old strategy. So basically, we're just going to chill and keep doing this. It should be pretty much autopilot now whenever you see Bonnie or Chica in the door to just immediately close it, obviously. Freddy is someone that I keep in the back of my mind. I don't really think about Bonnie and Chica hardly at all, but Freddy, the only thing I'm really thinking about with him is, okay, I need to make sure that I never change the camera off of the east hull corner while the door is open. If that happens, Freddy sneaks in and you're dead. You might as well just restart or expect a jump scare. So Freddy is just someone I like to keep in the back of my mind. I don't really focus very hard on them. Foxy is definitely the main priority on this mode. When Chica, I think I just did it. I'm not paying too close attention, so sorry about that. But I think that when Chica just appeared in the right door, what I did was I put down the door and went over to check Pirate's Cove, then quickly switched back to the east hull corner. You have to get good at moving quickly across the camera, but if you get good at that, then you will have absolutely no problem. Alright, so basically from here I just chill and keep doing the same strategy. It becomes very automatic after a bit of practice, no matter how quick it looks. So, if you see Chica in the east hull corner and you don't see Freddy, don't worry, only one animatronic can appear on the camera at the same time in FNaF 1, and Chica takes priority over Freddy in the east hull corner for whatever reason. So don't worry if you see Chica in the east hull corner. Freddy probably didn't get into the office as long as you haven't changed the camera off of the east hull corner and left the door open or anything like that. You should be fine. I wouldn't worry about it. What I like to do, just so I remember, is that every time Chica appears in the right doorway and I close the door, I switch over to Pirate's Cove real quick, like I do here. I see Foxy's peeking, so I keep that information in the back of my mind. You basically just always want to know where Foxy is and how close he is to attacking you. That's really the key to this mode. So make sure you're checking Foxy frequently. If Chica hasn't appeared in the doorway for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, I definitely recommend putting down the right door anyway and just checking. Once again, always make sure that you do switch back to the east hole corner before you open the right door. I can't tell you guys how many times it's getting me killed, and I don't want that to happen to you. So I think we got the basic strategy down here. Foxy does attack later in this run at 4 a.m., which is actually good because I wanted to show you how to handle a Foxy attack. But not anything super interesting happened until then. So now that we've covered the basic strategy, then the next thing I wanted to talk about briefly is how much power you should have left at specific times, which is something that some players seem to be a little bit confused about. But with this strategy, you can typically have higher percentages, but for a beginner player, typically what I'd recommend is go for over 80% at 1 a.m., over 60% at 2 a.m., over 45% at 3 a.m., over 25% or 30%, it's up to you, if you want to hold yourself to a higher standard, at 4 a.m., and probably about 10 to 15%, I think you want to have over that at 5 a.m. And this will pretty much, if you have at least 15% power left at 5 a.m., then there's almost nothing that can screw you over beyond the second Foxy attack, which does instantly drain 6% of your power, and of course whatever it takes to close the door and use the monitor and all that. But Foxy hitting the door just instantly drains 6% power, so that's really the only thing that can mess you up. It does only take 1% the first time he attacks, so I'm not worried about him attacking the first time. But if he does attack after that, he is going to drain quite a bit of power, and that's really going to be the biggest threat to you. So that's why you have to make sure that you're pulling the camera up a lot and doing it consistently, just to make sure that Foxy doesn't attack more than once in this night. And like I said, Bonnie and Chica should be muscle memory, nothing really to talk about with those two. I've talked about them a lot before in previous videos, so go check those out if you want more information on them, but they're really not that important for 420 mode. As you guys can see here, I had about, I think, 50% power left when I hit 3 a.m., so I was feeling fairly confident. I wasn't going for green runs or anything like that where I was trying to save a lot of power. I just wanted to beat the night, so having 50% at 3 a.m., I felt like I was definitely on the right track. Should be getting relatively close to the Foxy attack here, and then I'll show you guys how to handle that. So yeah, this really just takes practice, like to be able to move your mouse as quick and to be able to switch cameras quickly whenever the right door is down, and you know, all of that. It just takes practice. It's really not that difficult, I promise you guys. The mode has gotten a lot easier with the invention of new strategies. Here I see that Foxy was standing outside of the cove, so I started to think, okay, he's gonna attack soon. I probably need to start checking him a little bit more frequently. That's something I like to do whenever Foxy's in his standing phase. I'm going to check him a lot more frequently, which you guys will probably notice. If Chica shows up at the door, that's a great opportunity, but sometimes I just put the door down and check anyway. There's Chica, so I went to check Pirate's Cove. Foxy was still there, so I'm like, alright, we're all good, but he's probably going to run this night, so I just need to keep an eye on him. I believe it takes about 26, 27 seconds, somewhere in there, for Foxy to reach your office after he leaves Pirate's Cove. So that's a good number to keep in mind. Here I noticed that the curtains were open, so here's what I did. I'm going to break it down for you guys because I was very quick. I'm running out of breath. So basically what I did there was, as soon as I saw that the curtains were wide open and Foxy was gone, I pulled the camera down. Of course, keep in mind the right door is closed here. I closed the left door, then I pulled the camera back up and switched over to the west hall, cam 2A. This triggered Foxy to instantly run down the hallway, which is what we want. I knew he wasn't going to attack again, so there was no point stalling him, and I didn't feel like guessing when he was actually going to arrive at the door, so I'd rather him just run immediately. So I went over to the west hall, and that caused Foxy to instantly sprint down the hallway. I had both doors closed at this point. That is very important to remember. Foxy knocked on the left door. As soon as he did, I pulled the, I believe I actually switched to the east hall corner before Foxy forced the monitor down. When Foxy does arrive at a door, he does force the monitor down. So you either need quick reflexes or you need to pull the monitor back up after and switch over to the east hall corner as soon as you see him start to run down the hall. So I went back to the east hall corner. Foxy closed the monitor. He started knocking on the door. So once I knew that my camera was back on the east hall corner, then I went ahead and opened the right door. Then I pulled up the monitor a few times while I was waiting. I don't know what I was waiting on, actually. You actually don't need to wait for Foxy to finish his knocking animation. You can just open the door as soon as he hits it. He'll be fine. But I've been playing a lot of FNaF VR, and it's different in that recreation of FNaF 1. So that's probably why I was paranoid about it. So I waited a little while, which you don't need to do. So once I had my camera on the east hall corner, then I opened the right door, I checked the left light to ensure Bonnie wasn't there, and I went ahead and opened the left door. So that was very complicated. You guys can go back and watch that part if you're not quite comprehending it yet. Hopefully you do. It's kind of hard to explain, kind of hard to understand, because just so much happened there, you know, in the span of such a short time. So hopefully the breakdown was okay for you guys. So we're nearing 6 a.m. now, so basically, just to recap, the strategy is keep the camera on the east hall corner most of the night. Check Pirate's Cove frequently, especially when Foxy's about to leave. Chica arriving at the door is a great opportunity for this because you really don't waste barely any power at all. It allows you to check Foxy very frequently, and it really doesn't use any more power, so it's an absolutely great way to deal with it. Bonnie and Chica are pretty much just muscle memory. Bonnie is the least important animatronic by far in this mode. The only importance of Chica really is knowing how close she is to arriving at the door so that you have a good chance to check Foxy. If you don't think that she's close to arriving, then just put down the right door and check Pirate's Cove anyway, even if she isn't there. Freddy, I just keep in the back of my mind because I want to make sure I don't switch off a camera accidentally. I want to make sure I'm always looking at the east hall corner camera while the monitor is open. So here, once I got to 3% power, around 3% power, I checked Foxy one last time, saw that he was peeking, so he was in stage 2, so I knew he wasn't close to running down the hallway. So then I decided I was comfortable enough to just open both doors, turn off the lights, and just AFK for the last few seconds. If you check Pirate's Cove and you know that you have 27 seconds or less before you either beat the night or run out of power, then you can just sit there and do absolutely nothing. Foxy won't kill you, no one else will kill you, you'll be fine. So that's really important for green runs and for just surviving when you're tight on power. But yeah, there you go, guys. So it's 420 mode. So I'm not sure how helpful this breakdown was. It's really hard to explain to someone how to beat 420 mode. You guys may not end up beating it like your very first try after watching this, but hopefully it just helped you understand some of the core fundamentals of what goes through my head when I play 420 mode and what I think should be going through yours as well. So yeah, hopefully this guide was helpful. I'm not really sure, but I think it was. So yeah, I'm a bit awkward on post commentary because I haven't done it before, but I think it turned out alright. So anyway, good luck on 420 mode. With that being said, thank you guys for watching this guide. I hope it helped you, and I will see you in the next one.